let's start with the censorship stories. We've got a couple here. One I want to start is I think this hasn't really received a lot of news. The obviously the death of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, as well as the incarceration of the 5-year-old by federal authorities in Minnesota, received a lot of attention, rightly so, and a lot of critiques of ICE and the Custom Borders Patrol who were behind those incidents. But another kind of story has been that the folks who are getting rounded up, some are here illegally in terms of their documentation. Numerous have not committed any crimes beyond that. But then there's a lot of folks who either have a legal right to be here and or are American citizens who've also been rounded up in these. And some of these folks are ending up in these jails, which have not really gotten a lot of media attention because they're kind of like makeshift jails. That one inmate, person who came out here to the United States from Ireland, where my people are from, and married a U.S. citizen. He was rounded up, and he's spent now, I think, close to 6 months in one of these camps, and recently was able to communicate with the outside. And he described the camp he's in as, quote, a modern day concentration camp. He calls it absolute hell while he was on this phone call. Now, this individual, Seamus Colton, he's originally from County Kilkenny, which, side note, Kilkenny is one of the best beers there. It's a nice Irish glue beer. But anyways, he is in this detention center, and he told the Irish Times that at the time of his arrest, he was carrying a Massachusetts driver's license and valid work permit, but was sent to this facility in El Paso, Texas, where, like I said, he's been there, I think it's 4.5 months, definitely around the 4 to 6 month range. And he described it as a bunch of temporary tents. He said he's barely had outside time, no fresh air, no sunshine. He thinks he could probably count on both hands the amount of time he's been outside. He said he's just locked in a room all day. He said that the facility has about 5 of these giant tents that are probably room about 1,000 detainees. He said, we get 3 meals a day. Very, very, this is a quote from him. Quote, we get 3 meals a day, very, very small meals, kid-sized meals. So everybody's hungry. Everybody's tired. He added that there's no commissaries. There's no options to buy extra food. He described it as, quote, filthy. He said, quote, the toilets, the showers, completely nasty, very rarely cleaned. And then this was the part that really kind of caught my attention. It was buried at the bottom of this article. But he said, quote, people are being killed by staff here, by the security staff, and you just don't know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. You don't know if there's going to be riots. You don't know what's going to happen. It's a nightmare down here. The news media, like I said, has not really, I think, put pressure on this. If I had to guess, I think that the news media sort of saw Trump's election as a sign that the country didn't care about immigrants. So they've been hands off on covering this. But I don't know. What do you make of the story?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I saw a tweet from Mehdi Hassan that was, I think I could detect some sarcasm in a sense, but he was saying now a white man is sounding the alarm from inside the concentration camps. And yeah, I think that it is a very important story, and that, well, I think about the conditions of these detainment centers. And yeah, and so I wonder how that, if like having someone with some privilege who is a white Irish guy who is from one of the countries that isn't a shithole country according to Trump, if that kind of brings more attention to it. But yeah, when I was going through the story, I feel like I don't I feel like it's only going to further polarize people who support immigration, people who don't support immigration. I mean, two things are very much true in the story: is that the guy, Seamus Culleton, was was currently going through the correct avenues for citizenship, and he came to the United States I think in 2009, and then the other thing that's true is that he did violate the 90-day visa that he had. Like he well overstayed that, but was, not committing violent crimes, was, had his own business, paying taxes, getting married, and was now going through the proper channels. And so I I just yeah, I sort of feel like, in the whether you're on the side of, oh, he was violating the law, he shouldn't have been here, or on the side of, well, he's a upstanding citizen and didn't, do anything wrong necessarily aside from overstaying the visa. I think it's kind of missing this huge part of the issue, which is, clearly we need like a path to citizenship. I feel like that's what, part of the what I sort of felt like was left out of the article, was maybe, or even the discussion a bit, was, yeah, like, clearly the system is messed up.
Yeah,
Either way you look at it.
yeah, and I think also another part of that story is, like, he uses a concentration camp analogy, and it's not that I'm saying he's wrong. I'm just, trying to be sensitive of folks who actually were in concentration camps before I draw a direct comparison. But one thing I think that is comparable is that how folks ended up in concentration camps were because of like laws that were created or interpreted with like technicalities or narrow identities. That's how folks got ended up in those concentration camps. And so now, are these conditions the same as a concentration camp? Again, I don't know. I only know his testimony. I haven't been there. The news media hasn't really covered it. But they're definitely the kind of conditions that a country that purports to believe that you're innocent until proven guilty and upholds human rights and justice, they would not have something like this for people, and regardless of the technicality. So even if he was here illegally, wasn't married, doesn't really matter. The conditions to me are like the story that's being censored.
Yeah, totally, 100%. And I could not agree more with, it's not just like the laws that we write that kind of reveal who we are as a country, but it's like how we treat people. It's how we, yeah, are we gonna treat people with dignity, or kind of fall back on these very barbaric tendencies? And yeah, it's, that sort of ethical, moral question is, well, I mean, maybe it has sort of been debated in the background by the Trump administration, but not so much in the public